Okay, hi everybody. My name is Yulia and I'm an Android developer at Jet.com. For those of you who do not know, Jet.com is an e-commerce company located in New York. And so we've been around for a little bit over two years. So we're a pretty innovative startup, and one of the most exciting things that we've built was Instant Apps. So right before Google I/O, we launched our first multi-feature Instant App, which was a huge success. So today we'd love to share with you our experience and basically provide some practical tips on how you can make your apps instant. But before we actually do a deep tech dive into how to build instant apps, let's talk about why we did it and what problems Instant App actually solves. So let's take a step back and talk about mobile evolution. And you probably remember those first primitive built-in applications, like a snake game, right, or a calculator. Everything was in black and white, there was no animation. Pretty boring, but still they considered to be our first applications. Then we stepped into the era of mobile web. And mobile web opened up a lot of opportunities for us to browse the internet, right, and search for the information we need. But the experience was pretty painful. The text got cut off sometimes. The images didn't render correctly. So most users still prefer to use desktop applications rather than mobile web. Then we stepped into the era of optimized mobile web pages. So most of the features currently on optimized mobile web pages go in parity with desktop features, which was pretty nice. Then pretty much simultaneously, we started to use store applications, right, or native applications. And we love our Google Play Store, right? So there is an app for almost every use case in our life. So we get a new device, we start installing the applications, then we keep installing them, keep installing, until we run into a space issue, right? How often does it happen to us when you're in the middle of a very important process and you need the app right now, you start installation process, and then you realize there is not enough space. So you have to take a step back, go through all your media files, applications, and install them. So it's a pretty time-consuming process, right? Sometimes pretty annoying. So this is where Instant App shines. So Instant App is the top of the application that does not require installation. So let's have a look at how Instant App works in reality. So you can see a Jet.com native application, and I'm uninstalling it from my launcher. And so I don't have a native application on the device. Then I open a Chrome and I need a camera. So I type Jet camera, and then you can see a lot of links with a great text instant. You can probably see it next to every link. So when I click on the link, what happens is that Instant App experience is being downloaded on the device on the fly. And just within a few seconds, the native application is already there, right? So it's so fast, so performant, so quick, you didn't have to go to Google Play Store to install an app. Everything was done just right within one click. Isn't it amazing? So when we talk about Instant App, it's actually a new type of the application that absorbs the benefits of both worlds. So it takes the best features from the mobile world, and it takes the best features from the native applications. So in terms of mobile web, it's also native Instant Apps. Instant Apps are space-friendly, so they basically don't take as much space as regular installable application, and you don't need to install them. So what happens is a user clicks on the URL address, and then the application is being downloaded on the device. It's being cached there until the user is using the application. And then once the system is under pressure, basically what it does, it scans all your Instant Apps and it removes the ones that you have not used in a while. So all this installation and uninstallation process is being handed over to the system. So you are, as users or developers, don't really need to worry about installing anymore. But in its core, Instant App is still a native application. So it has material design, navigation, and all of those cool native features that our users are so accustomed to. So assume we as developers love the idea of Instant App, but doesn't really mean that we need to create another application and basically support both of them? Luckily, no. So installable application shares the same code base as your Instant App. So you don't really need to worry about creating another app. It's supporting both. So Instant Apps and installable application can share the same code base. In its core, Instant App is a multi-module project. So, and what it means is we have to go away from the pattern of building one module and supporting it. We have to break our application into independent components, the so-called multiple feature modules. And if some of the notions don't really sound familiar to you, don't worry, we'll go into the steps of how to actually build instant apps and modularize your application. So as you've seen from the demo, Instant App is a very lightweight application, right? It's being downloaded on the fly. So there are some constraints that we have to meet in order to build our Instant App. And one of the constraints is 4 megabyte size limit. So every module that you add to your instant application has to be no more than 4 megabyte size limit. And I know most of the developers think, how is it possible? Most applications on Google Play Store are over 20, 30 megabyte size limit, and we're talking about 4 megabyte. This is the situation where my team was in when we adopted Instant App project, and we were also concerned. But in the next few slides, I will definitely provide some practical tips on how to slim down your application and meet this size requirement. Currently, Instant Apps are being supported on the API level 23 and above. Google works on basically supporting Instant Apps on lower level APIs. And one of the most important characteristics of Instant App is that it's URL responsive. So in order to launch an Instant App, we have to click on a URL address. So one of the questions that I was asked recently was, okay, so I'm building an Instant App, but how do I embed it into a browser, right? Because you've seen from the example that Instant App is being launched when a user clicks on the URL address on the Chrome, right? So there is no relation between really Chrome and browser in Instant App. So what happens under the hood is we're creating a unique URL, Instant App URL address. And then once the user clicks on the URL address, it's being sent to the Google Play Store. And then Google Play Store is trying to find a matching Instant App APK. And so if the matching Instant App APK is found, it's being downloaded to the device. And the user can enjoy a very delightful and nice Instant App experience. If the Google Play Store is not able to find a matching Instant App APK, then the URL address is being sent over to the system, and system handles it like any other URL addresses. So in most cases, the user will land in mobile web page. So when talking about building those unique Instant App URL addresses, you have to keep in mind and make sure that your Instant App URL addresses match with your mobile web URL addresses. And why is that important? So imagine we have a KitKat device, right? And I created a very unique Instant App URL address that does not have a matching mobile web URL address. So when I click on the link on the KitKat device that does not support Instant App, I will land on 404 page no found error, right? So because Instant Apps are not being supported, there is no matching mobile web URL. That's the issue, 404 page. So in order to prevent this scenario and make sure that the experience is very smooth, just try to match your Instant App URL addresses with mobile web. So if the device supports Instant App, the user will land on Instant App. Otherwise, it will be your mobile web application as a backup. And as you can probably guess, the place where we declare our Instant App URL addresses is in the Android manifest. So for each and every activity that serves as an entry point into your Instant application, you have to create an intent filter. And so you have to specify scheme, you have to specify host and path prefix. And so basically intent filters for Instant Apps look pretty much like any other intent filters for just like regular dip links that I'm pretty sure most Android developers have experience with. You have to specify the action view, and we also have to set categories, browsable and default. New tag that has been introduced with Instant Apps is Android order. So, and this tag, this attribute is useful for cases when you have two activities and both of them will have the same Instant App URL address. So in order to tell the system and your application which activity will be launched before the other one, there should be an attribute Android order. So, so the activity with the Android order with a higher number will get launched over the other one. There are two types of Instant Apps. So there is a multi-feature Instant App and there is a single feature Instant App. And as you can probably guess from the image and the name, multi-feature Instant App is focused on building independent components that coexist next to each other. And single feature Instant App is all about building one basically foundation block within your Instant application. And so let's look deeper into each and every type and decide which one is better and which one probably most developers would prefer. And let's start with the easier example or easiest approach, which is a single feature Instant App. So assume you have a regular installable application. It's basically one monolithic app module where most of your code lives, and you decided to build Instant App. So the first step that you need to do is you need to add a new module, which we will call a base module. So you're adding a new module to your project structure, and then you have to move all of the code from the app module to the base module. So our app module is currently empty. It doesn't have any resources or source files. Everything got shifted into the base module. Then we have to provide the dependency of the app module on the base module. In order to build Instant App specifically, we have to add a new module, which is Instant App module. Again, it will be empty. It won't have any resources or source files. And then we have to provide the dependency of Instant App module on the base module. And that's pretty much it, right? So as you can see, Instant App is not about adding extra code. It's more about modularizing the existing code, adding some extra modules to your application, and then basically connect those modules. So let's talk about how we will actually connect the modules. Everything is done through build.gradle files. So let's look at the build.gradle file of the base module. So there will be a new plugin that we have to apply, which is com.android.feature. In the default config of the Android closure, we have to add a base feature attribute and set it to true. So, and why is that attribute important? Because basically we tell our system that other modules would depend on the base module, and if other modules need something, they can basically refer the base module. So base module is the most important module basically in the whole application. And then in the dependencies module, in the dependencies closure, right, you can see that I just specify library dependencies that my application need. Build.gradle file of the app module would have our well-known plugin, which is com.android.application. And in the dependencies block, we don't need to specify any more dependencies, right? Because as you remember, we've done it in the base module. So we just have to tell app module that it would depend on the base module, which is done through configuration implementation project. So pretty much it. And build.gradle file of the Instant App module looks very similar to the app module. So the plugin is different. It's com.android.instantApp. But the dependencies block looks pretty much like the app module. So we just have to tell Instant App module that it depends on the base module, which is where most of the stuff lives. So once again, I would love to summarize that single feature Instant App does not require adding extra code to your application. It's more about shifting some files around and adding extra modules to your application. It will probably take you a little bit less than half a day to build a single feature Instant App. But there is an issue with it. And this is 4 megabyte size limit. Just because we have one module, base module, and it's responsible for keeping all the code, right, your business logic, all of the libraries, once you reach that size limit of 4 megabytes within the base module, there is no real space to grow. So you cannot do anything about it. And this is kind of like a dead end. So I always try to tell people that single feature Instant App is not really scalable option to build Instant Apps. So it's a good way to play with Instant Apps, see how they work, and just basically feel them, but not really build an application that you plan to support in the long run. So this is where multi-feature Instant App comes into place. So the difference between single feature and multi-feature Instant App is that in multi-feature Instant App, instead of shifting all of this stuff into the base module, we're breaking everything into independent components. So we're basically adding the so-called, we're we're breaking everything into independent components, the so-called feature modules, and they would coexist independently, right? They would live separately from each other. And as you can see, right, there is no really limit to how many feature modules you can add, and that's why the application is more scalable than single feature Instant App. Just to provide you some examples of what features can live within your multi-feature Instant App, let's look at our application. So basically jet.com instant application. So we have a PLP page, or the so-called product list page. So here we're providing information about a list of products that a user can see when the user types in, for example, Tide, or I don't know, keyboard. Then there is a PDP, or product detail page, which is responsible for providing detailed information about specific products. Then there is a cart, which makes sense, so basically takes care of the checkout process. And there is an order detail page. An order detail page sums the most recently placed order. So all of those features are feature modules, right? And then basically exist independently. But as you can probably guess, right, there is still some shared components between feature modules, right, such as networking layer, such as maybe analytics managers, some login logic, right? So some information and some logic is duplicated within the feature modules. So in order to prevent this duplication, we have to add a base module, and we have to shift all of that code, right, and logic that is being repeated in the feature modules to the base module. So when I think about the base module, I think about it as a shared repository, right? Shared repository that will provide code to the second level feature modules. And again, just to repeat, it would be probably, I don't know, like retrofit services that you need to use, or some like analytics managers that would exist through the whole application. In order to build Instant App itself, we have to add a new module, Instant App module, and then we have to provide the dependency of the Instant App module on the feature modules. So once again, the base module is that shared repository. Then the second level of the modules are independent feature modules. They basically don't depend on each other. They live independently. And this is where most of your code business logic would live. And then the third layer of the modules are just regular empty modules. App module and Instant App module won't have any source files or resources. App module would be responsible for building a regular installable APK, and Instant App module would be responsible for building Instant App APKs. So let's talk about builder Gradle files and how we actually provide the dependencies between all of those modules. So let's look at the builder Gradle file of the base module. The plugin is the same as in the single feature Instant App. It's com.android.feature. We have to set the same attribute base feature to true in the default config of the Android closure. And basically this attribute serves the same purpose as it does in the single feature Instant App. It tells the application that base module is basically the man in the room. This is where most of the stuff should live. This is the source of truth. And in the dependencies block, we have to specify all the features that that would depend on the base module. So in our example, if you remember from the screenshots I provided earlier, it was a PDP, PLP, card, and order detail page. So all of them would depend on the base module. So we have to tell base module that it would provide some information to the feature modules. I would love to pay your attention to a very important configuration, which is application project, that requires the name of your application module. And this configuration is important for cases when your current installable application supports different flavors. So if you want to propagate these flavors to the instant apps, you have to specify application project and provide the name of your app module. And if you think about it, it makes sense because where do we usually store the application IDs? In the app module, right? So in order to let Instant App pull those application IDs through the base module, we need to tell base module where app module lives and the name of it. And then in the dependencies block, we'll just specify all the library dependencies that your application would need Then build.gradle file of the feature module would have com.android.feature plugin applied. The dependencies block looks pretty simple, so we just have to tell our feature module that it would depend on the base module. In the cases where there is a library that is not required for the all features and you don't want to put it in the base module, you can actually add a specific library dependencies within a feature that will require that dependency. Build.gradle file of the app module would have our well-known com.android.application plugin applied. In the dependencies block, there are just a few configurations that we have to set. So we have to tell app module that it would depend on the feature modules and the base module. Again, if you remember the chart with a lot of modules and the structure, so this is what we're doing here. Build.gradle file of the Instant app is pretty similar to the app module. The plugin is different, com.android.instant app. The dependencies block looks pretty similar to the app module. So you have to tell Instant app that it would depend on the base module and the second level feature modules. So we've talked about size constraints, right? And we've talked about a problem that we run into a single feature Instant app where once our base module reaches that 4 megabyte size limit, there is no space to grow. So how everything works in multi-feature Instant app. So in multi-feature Instant app, if you think about it, it's not only the feature module that is being pulled and downloaded on the device when the user clicks on the URL address. Just because a feature module would depend on the base module, right? It's actually a combination of a base module and feature module that are being pulled on the first download. On the subsequent downloads, right, there will be just a feature module pulled because the base will be already cached. But in the first download, it's a combination of both modules. So when we're talking about size constraint in multi-feature Instant app, you have to make sure that it's not 4 megabyte per base module and per feature module. It's 4 megabytes for the sum of base module and feature module. And there is a very helpful tool that can let you keep track of the size of your application, APK Analyzer. I'm pretty sure most of you have heard about it. So when you're building your multi-feature Instant app, make sure that you're paying attention to the raw file size, not the download size, which is unfortunate because raw file size is usually bigger, right, than download size. Anyway, this is what we were given. This is what we have to work with. So, yeah, 4 megabyte size limit sounds a little bit scary for us Android developers because it's a luxury. Most applications in Google Play Store are over 20 and 30 megabyte size. So in this slide, I would love to share with you some practical tips that actually helped us to slim down our application from 17 megabytes to a little bit less than 4. And so the first thing you need to do is just review your dependencies. Please make sure that you will list out all the stuff that you're pulling into your application, go through each and every dependency and evaluate it. So, and just to provide a few examples, Instant apps don't support certain features, right? Such as notifications are not being supported currently. So if there is a library that provides notifications within your regular installable application, you don't really need to support it within your Instant app, right? You don't need to pull it. You don't need all of that logic. Make sure you will remove it. Or, for example, in our installable application, joe.com, we had 3 crash reporting, 5 marketing and analytics libraries, which in their core really do the same thing. So you don't really need to keep all of them. Just remove most of the stuff and just keep one of them. Please make sure that you will enable ProGuard. We all know that ProGuard can be a headache to maintain, but I will definitely provide a lot of benefits in terms of reducing the size of your application. Make sure you will shrink your resources and start using vector drawables. And just because vector drawables are much lighter than PNG, JPEGs file, and JPG files. Actually, when the first time before we started to build Instant app, I opened APK Analyzer and I started to look at the size of the application, and I started to analyze what memory most of the stuff, what stuff actually takes most of the memory, and it's actually resources. So try to remove all of your PNG, JPEGs, JPG files, and move to the vector drawables. If you do need to use a complex image, try to convert PNG to WebP. because WebP is usually 2x smaller than PNGs. And there is like such an easy way to do this. Right within the Android Studio, you can right-click on the PNG source file, and then there will be an option to convert it to a WebP. So pretty seamless. The process of building Instant App is very similar to the process of building regular installable application, except one thing. Instead of having one module, one APK, you will have as many APKs as you have feature modules, plus one APK for the base module. And if you think about it, it makes sense, right? Because we're not downloading the whole application onto the device. What we're doing is we're pulling independent features. So that's why it's not just one APK. It's an APK per feature plus one APK for the base module. And then all of them are being zipped up into a zip bundle. And so later you will have to provide the zip bundle to and basically upload it to the Google Play Store. There is a super helpful API that is provided by Instant Apps, and one of the most useful methods is Instant App, which takes a context. Why is this method useful? For situations where you need to strip out some code from your Instant App and leave it within your installable application, you can basically use this method that serves kind of like as a toggle to identify what context your users are running to, whether it's a regular installable application or whether it's Instant App. Another use case for using this method would be probably to keep your analytics data separately, right? You don't want to merge your analytics data for installable application and Instant App together, right? You want to keep your Instant App separately and then see whether it brings some benefits. This is what we've done, and I'll definitely share some analytics data that we've seen in the next few slides. So Instant App does not really have to be a fully supported application, right? And what I mean by that is if your current installable application has, for example, 15 features, you don't need to make or to try to support all of those 15 features within your Instant App. So Instant App can be a light version of your application. So instead of basically supporting 15 features, you can support 3 or 5. So once the user starts engaging with your Instant application, then you can actually drive all your users into installable application. So there's a very useful method provided by the Instant App API, which is show install prompt. And then basically right within your Instant application, the user can see a dialog which will be responsible for pulling regular installable application for the features that are not currently being supported within Instant App. So it's a really nice and simple API. When most of the features within your Instant App don't match with the features that your installable application provide. So currently, Instant Apps are in kind of like beta version, but it's not really in beta. And what I mean by beta is it depends on the Android Gradle plugin, and Android Gradle plugin currently is in beta 6, but it's still pretty stable. We launched it to prod, so currently Instant App is in prod, and we don't see any issues. Definitely there were some problems, some crashes, some bugs, some inconsistencies. So in the next few slides, I would love to share with you all of the stuff that we ran into and all of the problems that took a lot of time for us to debug. And I hope that basically I will save your time and you won't run into the issues we ran into. One of the most interesting problem was we're building an APK, and then we run into an issue where the version code is 0, which is inconsistent with version code 494. And so my first intuitive thought was, okay, why is it 0? I remember that I set version code to 494. So I need to go back to the base module and basically check whether my version code is set to 494. And as you can probably guess, I was able to verify that it's 494. So it wasn't that easy of a fix. And then once I started to look more into the problem, I realized that this version code is being pulled from the, you can see in the area, PDP library, or PDP feature module. So, and it doesn't really make sense, right? Because as we remember, the feature modules, second level modules, depend on the base module, right? If in the base module we set version code, it should be propagated to the feature modules, right? which makes sense. Well, it does make sense. This is a bug, unfortunately, on the Google site, and they're working to fix it. So a quick workaround this issue will be you have to manually set version code and version name within each and every feature modules as well as the base module. So it's not really big of an issue, and hopefully in the next iterations of Instant Apps, this thing will be fixed. ProGuard. We had ProGuard installed, enabled in our regular installable application. It was working fine, no problems. And then when we enabled it within Instant App, we started to run into a lot of no such method or field name error. And if some people worked already with ProGuard, you probably know the reason is just because ProGuard is not really smart enough to establish the dependencies between the base module and the feature modules, so it strips out a lot of stuff. So in order to prevent that, you just have to add some ProGuard rules to your ProGuard file. So a little bit tedious, but believe me, all of the errors would be gone once you add some extra ProGuard rules to the file. This is my least favorite error, crash. I spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's going on. And as you can see, the problem is connected with the resources, right? So we can see that there is a toolbar. The ID of the toolbar is toolbar, but for some reason, the ID is not being found, right? And again, my first intuitive thought would be I have to go to the XML file, right, where I defined my toolbar, check whether there is a widget toolbar, and check whether its ID is r.id.toolbar. And as you can probably guess, I was able to verify that there was toolbar and the ID is the toolbar. So when I started to look deeper into the issue, I realized that the resource is being defined in the base module, but it's being used in the feature modules. So, and what happens with Instant Apps is that it has different package names, right, specified in the manifest within the base module and the feature modules. And just because the package names are different, Android generates different resource packages, right, with different names. So in order to solve this issue, we don't have just to specify the ID, we have to specify a full ID. And the full ID is usually prefixed by the package name by the package name of the module where this resource lives. Again, just to reiterate, the problem is not really global. So the problem is there when you're defining your resource within the base module and then you're using it within the feature modules. Then you have to specify the full ID of the resource. Currently, unfortunately, reusable layouts are not being used and supported in Instant Apps in feature modules. So merge and include tags don't work. There will be a lot of resource errors that we will run into. And unfortunately, there is no quick fix for that. So the thing that I had to do is I had to remove all of those nested layouts, and I just have to basically nest them manually. So this is not pretty, but it works. It at least unblocked me and let me keep working in Instant Apps. Again, Google is aware. They're fixing the issue. Hopefully it will be fixed pretty soon. And just reusable layouts are not being supported in feature modules. You're fine for the base module. Keep using merge include tags in the base module. One of my probably most favorite problem and most interesting was I'm running Instant App, it's fine, it's not crashing, but there is nothing. Like the user does not see anything. And the issue with that is secure networking. So make sure you're running everything through encrypted TLS protocols such as HTTPS, no HTTP allowed in Instant Apps. So just to finish up, I would love to provide some data and probably specify the benefits and strong sides that we've gained when we built our first multi-feature Instant App. And one of the most obvious gains is size reduction. So our current Instant application is a little bit less than 4 megabyte size limit. And our installable application actually got slimmed from 17 megabyte size to 7 megabyte size. So we actually even won DeX right now, which is pretty awesome. Then we've done a lot of modularization. So before, our app was just one monolithic, huge, such a mess, such an unpleasant experience to work with. Currently, it's modularized. It's really nice, clean structure of the project. Every new developer that joins the team are basically super happy to use this well-organized project. It's so easy to onboard people because people can easily find where the stuff is located. Every feature is independent from others. We've done a lot of code cleaning up when we were building Instant App. Instant App is a very, as I mentioned before, fast, performant, smooth experience, right? So there are some features that we had to add and are required to be added to your Instant application. And one of them is Smart Lock. I'm not sure whether some of you have worked with Smart Lock or not, but this is an account management and basically login API. So in order to provide this smooth login experience, Smart Lock is the way to go. And then Google Payments as well. So in order not to let your users just like type in the card, but like help them check out on the fly, Google Payments is super useful. And these features were not just added to Instant Apps. They have been supported. They're currently being supported within our regular installable application. And surprisingly, most of them become one of the most beloved features among our users. Conversion rate increased by 27%. If you think about it, like the number is huge, right? Isn't it? It's like we didn't believe it first when we built it, and then we started to measure. We're like 27%. No, there is something wrong. Let's just like remeasure and see. But in reality, we were able to, confirm that the number is actually 27%, which is like impressive. And cart size, so as I mentioned, we are an e-commerce company. Our cart size increased by 7%. So the users really love the experience. So they spend more time and they spend more money within the application, which basically makes our business people super happy. So I cannot really, I cannot really say enough and point out that Instant App wasn't just one-way gain for us, right? It wasn't only about building instant applications. It brought up a lot of benefits in terms of regular installable application, and it brought up a lot of benefits to our business side of the company. So this is the end of my presentation. Please reach out to me if you have some questions. I'm pretty active on Twitter, and I think we have a couple minutes to answer some of the questions right now.
Yes, and Christian asked a question on Slack, but I ran out of battery on my phone. Either I can try to recall it, or you can ask it yourself.
Yeah, I'm just wondering regarding split APKs. So you mentioned that you have to upload like 5 or 6 different APKs. So what happens if you are splitting that? Are you then ending up downloading like 30 different APKs, or can you do that more easily?
Sure. So the question is, just because within Instant Apps we have to generate not one APK, but we have to generate, right, several APKs. What if we have 30 APKs? Do we have to upload all of them, like 30, to Google Play Store? And the answer is yes, but it's not like manual upload of every APK independently. So once you build Instant App within Android Studio, so that Instant App module, right, that is at the top level, right, there is like an app module and Instant App module. So within the Instant App module, within the build folder, you will find a zip bundle. So just a zip file, and all of that zip file will contain all your APKs. So you don't have to manually upload each and every to the Google Play Store. You just take the zip bundle and you throw it to the Google Play Store, and Google Play Store consumes. And then once the user starts downloading your features, right, your Instant Apps, then it's separate APKs that will be pushed to the devices. Does that answer the question? Awesome, thank you. Yep, sure. Sure. So the question is, what if some changes have been done to one APK, and then are the rest of the APKs basically affected, and do they have to be re-uploaded to the Google Play Store? And the answer is yes, because So basically, Instant App still generates one zip bundle, right? So, and it's not up to you to generate an independent APK, right? So per feature, right? It's basically done by Android Studio on your behalf, right? Once you specify that every module would have a plugin feature, or base, right? So this is kind of like a flag to the Android system, and based on that, the system will generate that many APKs, right? So it's not about you go into a specific, I mean, you as a developer will have to go to a module, like one feature module, and do the changes, but you have to rebuild the whole APK, I mean, the whole zip bundle and all of the APKs, and they will all together be zipped up again in the zip bundle, and you will push the zip bundle to the Google Play Store. So yeah, the answer is it's not bringing changes into one APK and then upload it separately to Google Play Store.
Anyone else?
Is it possible to navigate from a currently running instant app feature to another feature? So that you click on it and then probably downloads the 4 megabyte again for the next? Or?
Sure, actually, yeah. So the question is it possible to navigate between the features, right? Because each and every feature is being downloaded separately on the device. And the answer is yes, and this is actually how it works. So from the demo that I provided, right, you were able, it's not just one feature. And the demo that I showed, it's several features. And on the first download, once you click, you will see this like, like a very thin line of a progress bar, right? And it will tell you that Instant App is being downloaded. So on the subsequent downloads, you won't see this anymore. So I was actually navigating on the demo video between different APKs and between different features. But it's so smooth that users don't see that they actually are being jumped from one APK to a different one. It's like it's not noticeable. It's like as if you're still within the same application. It's like that smooth whole experience that exists. Sure.
How are you passing session information between different features?
It's still one application. The question is how do we contain and basically preserve the session information? So it's still one application, right? It has the same application ID. So it acts as one application. Like you don't have to do extra efforts in order to preserve the things between different features. Basically, everything is done just like the way you navigate between different activities within the screen. So there is no really extra effort from the developers to preserve the information once you navigate between different features. It's pretty seamless. So.
If you have started storing things in a database or something, is that like seamlessly moved over?
Sure. So the question is, once we migrate from the Instant App, and there is, I showed you that install prompt with the dialog. So the user clicks and want to install regular installable application. Does the information being transferred from Instant Apps into the regular installable application? And the answer is, starting with Android O and up, yes, it will be. And there is just a tag that you have to provide. It's target sandbox version 2. You have to set it within your manifest file for regular installable application and your instant manifest. So it's just like one tag that you have to specify. For the API levels before O, Google is releasing basically a quick fix and transition in order to make sure that the data will be propagated from the Instant App into the installable application. Currently, it's not, but for us it's not really a big issue because in most cases our user has to be logged in. So once the user is logged in, right, like we have our whatever cart ID that we're tagging, right? So once the user starts adding items to the cart and then moves from Instant App to the installable application, so it's still the same card. We still basically connect with our API and server, and we provide the card ID. So for us, it's not really an issue. So like the logging, kind of like prevents and backs up all of the data. But if there is like no logging required and you still want to preserve the information that is being passed from the Instant App to the installable application, then going from O and up, there will be a tag that you have to specify, target sandbox version 2, and lower level API, Google will will just like in the we've talked like a few days ago, and they said they are about to push the release, and there will be some logic that has to be implemented. Yep, sure.
Regarding the install prompt, to the user, an instant app looks and feels and acts exactly like a native app. Wouldn't it confuse them if they think they're in a native app and they get an install app prompt to install that exact same app?
Sure. So the question is, just because Instant App and a regular installable application look identically, right, wouldn't it be confusing for the user to navigate between them and basically, kind of like get lost, where am I running into? So there are two probably answers to that question. The first is, once the user already has installable application, the user will never go into Instant Apps. There is no kind of like sense to have Instant App, right? Because as you mentioned, it's the same experience. If there is installable application, Instant App won't be served to the user's device. Another part is when the user does not have installable application, and basically from Chrome, as I've mentioned, right, and navigate straight to the Instant App, there is actually notification running on the user's phone, right? You can like pull it down and see, and it says that the user running Instant Apps. And so it's kind of like users should be aware. I feel like there is a lot of information about a lot of words currently being spread about Instant Apps. So they would be aware of the fact that they are running Instant App. And again, it's up to the user. If they don't want to see Instant Apps and they want to keep using mobile web, it's so easy to disable Instant Apps in the settings. It's very seamless.
Okay, I think one last question.
To add to that answer, doesn't the user get a prompt that they're going to use Instant Apps the first time they run an Instant App?
So the question is, wouldn't the user get the prompt that they are running Instant App? And so the answer is, from the current experience, as you've seen in Chrome, there are different URL addresses, right? I wanted a camera, and there is a gray text instant. So it's basically instant tells users that, hey, you will be running Instant App experience. So there is that, there is that tag that is being identified next to each and every URL address that the user is about to click. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. I will stick around and hang around. So if you have questions or concerns, please come talk to me. I would be happy to answer all the questions. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.